What's cooking, Timberwolves? All right, today what we're gonna do is we're gonna talk about measurement. Now, first and foremost, here in Canada, we use metric. We don't use imperial. So if you take a look at some of the recipes, what you'll notice, especially online, is that they use imperial in the States. But everywhere in Europe and in Canada, we use metric. What I'll do is I'll provide you guys with some conversion. But if you can learn how to measure basics, right? You can learn these measurement basics, then you should be able to convert it to recipes that you might need to use if they are imperial, okay? So in my lab, we use metric, and what that means is that we have 3 measuring cups, okay? So measuring cups are used for dry ingredients mostly, unless there is an exception, and I'll tell you about it. We use 5 measuring spoons, although sometimes in my class anyways that here, these ones are really tiny and they tend to go down the sink. So you might not have a 1, but you'll for sure have a 2. And then we use liquid measures as well. So liquid measures are clear. Usually they're made out of glass. We have 2 sizes in this room. We have a small one and we have a bigger one. In the real world, you guys usually have 3, okay? And I'll tell you guys about those sizes as well. So let's go over amounts and then I'll go over techniques and how we make this all work, all right? So with measuring cups, we have 3 amounts, and usually you can see on the handle what the amounts are. So the biggest one is 250, the middle one is 125, and the last one is 50. Now, if you were to convert this to imperial, this small one would be 1/4 cup, this middle one would be 1/2 cup, and this one would be 1 cup. If you guys do want to know, like have an actual chart, I will provide you guys with that. If upon request, you can just email me. But these 3 make up what we use for everything. For measuring spoons, we typically have 5. So we start with 1, which is the tiniest one. Then we go to 2. Then we go to 5. After that, we go to 15 and 25. We do not have a 10 and we do not have a 100. A lot of people get confused with that. These all nest together, okay, to make a complete set, all right? For liquid measures, typically in our class anyways, and usually at home, you guys will maybe have 2 sizes. You'll have one that goes up to 250 milliliters, and again, that's a cup, or one that goes up to 500 milliliters, or one that's 2 cups, okay? There is a bigger one, and that goes up to 1,000, but we don't tend to use that here, okay? So we've got all these options as far as measurement goes. You guys are gonna have to do math, yay, in order to figure it out, okay? But for now, let's go over techniques. Now, when we're dealing with stuff like flour, sugar, any of the herbs or spices or anything like that, we're always gonna do this method, and it's 2 different steps. The first one is to heap. The second one is to level off. In my room, we use this. This is a metal spatula. We use it for everything. So even if it is not on your equipment list, you will make sure that you've got this out and you're ready to roll with it. Now at home, a lot of you guys might not have a metal spatula, okay? So if that's the case, just use the back of a butter knife and you can just level off that way, all right? You just want a straight edge. Okay, so I'm gonna heap. So I'm gonna take my, my 250. I'm gonna make sure my hands are clean, and I'm gonna heap into my flour, and I'm gonna do this over top of my flour bin. I am not gonna do it on my countertop because I don't wanna waste ingredients and get a big mess. So I've got this massive heap right here. Do you guys see how much overflowing it is? I am then gonna chop it a little bit. I'm gonna bring it towards myself, okay, halfway, and then all the way off. All right, and what that does is you see this nice flat edge, okay? What it does is it fills in any air pockets I might find, all right? And I'm good to go. And at this point, I would then dump it into my bowl, all right? Okay, you're gonna do the exact same thing when you guys use your spoons, all right? So say I needed to do like 15 milliliters of flour. I'm gonna grab my 15, I'm gonna heap, I'm gonna bring it towards myself halfway, and measure all the way off to be able to create a flat surface. Okay. Now with flour, all right, you can do this It's awesome. Typically with flour, especially in cakes and with anything that you want a lot of air in it, you would sift it before. Let's see if I can find my sift. So you would use something like this, which is a sieve. And you would put it over top and then sift it and then actually measure it from there. Icing sugar is another one you would use just so that you prevent it from clumping, okay? But in our class, we don't have enough time. Typically with muffins and even with some brownies and stuff, you don't really need to sift. You just have to make sure you've got a good leavener, okay? When we are dealing with stuff like brown sugar or solid fat, so margarine is an example, peanut butter would be another example. Those are all solid fats, okay? So they're solid when in normal room temperature form. But if you were to heat them up, they would become liquid, all right? So when we deal with that, we always do a method called packing, all right? So when we pack, we actually are going to take our measurements. So I'm gonna take my 50. I'm gonna press it up against my container first and foremost. Then I'm gonna use my rubber spatula to pack it in, okay? Once I've done that, then I'm going to scoop off. And what should happen is that if I flip this, it retains its shape, okay? And then basically I'm making sure that I get all of the ingredients in there, I get all the goodness in there, and I'm getting out the air pockets. And this is especially needed for solid fats, okay? So when we measure solid fats, we're not gonna use a liquid measure. We're always gonna make sure we use our dry measures for that. All right, so I'm just gonna put my lid on this. Actually, I'll put this off to the side. Okay, liquid measures. All right, it's a 3-step process. Okay, so when we measure liquids, we always want to make sure we have a flat, stable surface. We don't want to do this or else we're not going to get an accurate measurement, okay? We're going to then look for the line that we're going up to. So if I'm going up to 125, I'm going to go to the 125 line. I don't know if you can see it because of the reflection, okay? I'm going to go down to eye level, okay? So what that means is I'm actually going to bend my knees and go down to eye level so that I can see it and I get an accurate measurement, okay? This is not eye level, bend your knees, okay? The last thing I'm going to do is I am going to take whatever liquid I've got, okay, and I'm going to go slightly above the 125 line. And what this does is it allows for the dip down. So liquids, what they do is when they're in a container, right, they dip down and you want that lower part, which is called the meniscus, to actually touch where the line is. So you're actually gonna go just slightly above the line that you want to measure for an accurate measurement, okay? So if I was to pour this, again, I would do that, or if I'm doing water, I'll fill it up. Take a look at where I'm at. Okay, so right now I'm at like 150, so I'm gonna give a little bit off. I'm gonna wait until the water stops flowing back and forth because I've moved it around, right? So I'm gonna wait until it jiggles, stops jiggling. I'm still slightly above 125. And again, I'm gonna wait until it's like basically it's stable and I'm slightly above the line and I'm good to go, okay? So you would do this for oil, milk, all of that good stuff. Now, you're always gonna take the largest measurement of the liquid items first so that you can get an accurate measurement, okay? So if I had 200 milliliters of milk that I need to measure and I had 15 milliliters of oil, I'm gonna do my 200 first, okay? Say though that I have 125 milliliters of milk and I need to put in 25 milliliters of oil and I put the oil in first. What I can use is basically a similar, it's like a displacement method, or I'm just adding the two together. So if I've already got 25 in here and I need to go up to, I need to add in 125, I would go up to the 150 line and that would give me the amount that I would need for both. And you can actually use this with butter as well at room temperature. You can put it in until it goes up to the line that you need, okay? But you have to watch in this method because I can't pour it back because I've already got my oil in there. I can't pretend that if I put back the milk, it won't be contaminated, and then I might lose some of my oil that I'm actually gonna need in my recipe in there too. The last thing we're gonna talk about is how to measure weird items, okay? Now, things like chocolate chips everybody loves chocolate chips, okay? They're delicious. But if we actually use the level off method, we will lose most of our chocolate chips, okay? So say I go to do my chocolate chips, I'm gonna level off. What actually ends up happening is I have all these holes, right? And I don't actually get a measurement and I'm losing all the chocolate chips. Now, I know in your household, you're probably just like dumping it from the bag and you don't measure, but here at school, we measure everything, unless I pre-measure it for you. So what we're gonna do instead with things that are weirdly shaped, so like raisins, seeds, coconut shreds, anything like that, is we're gonna do what's called the pat down method, okay? So I have my chocolate chips, I'm gonna put it over top of a bowl, and I'm just gonna pat it down. And what this allows is for any excess to come off, but for the rest to get into place so that I have a good measurement, okay? All right, I think that's all I needed to go over with you guys as far as measurement goes. Remember that you will need to add, okay? So oftentimes when you guys have amounts, you might be like 30 milliliters, and in that case, you would do 215s, okay? And the biggest rule of thumb with measurement goes in my classroom is that if you can get the least amount of dishes dirty, that's what we're gonna go for, okay? But it needs to be accurate. We're not guessing. If I was to do 200 milliliters, I'm not gonna go, well, I'll just guess in a 250. That's not how that goes, okay? You need to make sure that you're accurate, but we also wanna make sure that we're not cleaning thousands of dishes because we've made every single thing we own dirty, all right? If you guys have any questions, just email, but this is pretty straightforward. This is measurement that you will guys use forever, but enjoy and keep cooking.